process a lot of times like, wow, it's so frustrating. There's so many losses to every win you get up here. But the forefathers set it up to be a struggle, I think. And the two chambers between the Senate and the House, and you see the dynamics there between the two. They will vote on something completely different, have a different view of it than we will here in the House. And I think we're closer to the people. When you're a delegate, you are down in districts, particular closer to my community, my high school. And so things are, I have to look at it a little differently.
It seems like our debates always go longer. We were here till the wee hours of the night, 10:30 at night last night, and we come back today. And by law, we have to stay here and make sure everything gets done by midnight tonight. And then we gavel in Sunday morning at 12:01 a.m. and finish out the people's business.
Well, that's the thing. Coming in here, we thought for this show that we would have some series of breaks today as bills come over from the Senate. We'd break a little bit and then reset and come back again. But as we said, that budget bill, which is the most important thing that we vote on, went for almost 3 hours.
Let's talk about the budget bill. That's Senate Bill 250. And how the process works is, the Senate works on the budget. The House works on their version of the budget. We spent over 2.5 hours this morning. It was presented last night. And what happened was the House, I think they said they were off by about $300 million. The Senate had a different version, was off by $700 million. They had to come together, right? Chairman Householder of the Finance in the House and Senator Tarr, they had to come together and work out their differences. So what we actually received today was what's called to agree, concur on the Senate's version. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I understand that there were some tempers and some things. It got real testy last night over here in finance.
After session.
After session. So people were already tired and testy when they got in there. And we're not talking between parties. We're talking bipartisan here. So it was, and that kind of spilled over onto the floor this morning as we've seen some delegates. And if you were watching here, I think a lot of people were able to watch the House feed. You could see a lot of questions and a lot of concerns. It was interesting, though, after all that debate and all the questions, seemed to be, and I have questions about some of the ambiguity in there. There's a lot of COVID money and things thrown around in it. But
we got past 90-9 after all that. After 2.5 hour debate, it got past 90-9. But I think in reality it's not necessarily about, there's a lot of good stuff in that budget, but it's more about, I think the debate went about the process. It was more about the process of how, we have technically until June 30th to have a budget in place for the next fiscal year. But it's just the process about, there's no way we can have everybody get the things that they want. But I think you have to settle. Speaker Hanshaw came down off the podium. He came down off the podium to talk about, hey, this thing may not be perfect, but you have to vote for what the greater good product is that helps the most people.
Absolutely. And Speaker Hanshaw, obviously speaking to him, he wasn't here for the most part of that debate because his road was closed in Clay County where he was trying to commute in from, and then he got behind an accident. I think he was stopped on I-79 coming in, and he's had a real bad accident. So he didn't get into the. Thank goodness, I guess the bill was discussed that long, so he was able to come in and at least wrap it up. But
and let's talk about how the final day works for the people out here. So on day 60, this is when you see all the fun and games begin, right? So the Senate, they sometimes hijack some of the House of Delegates bills. And then the House maybe holds on to some of the Senate bills. It's kind of going back and forth, doing some old-fashioned horse trading. But what we just saw a few moments ago, we're still in the process of receiving Senate messages, right? And we saw a bill, I know that was near and dear to your heart, and that was the, for lack of better terms, transfer portal of high school athletes.
Right. That bill came over to us from the Senate earlier. We spoke about it here on the show. Yes. We had Coach Green from George Washington High and SSAC Director Bernie Dolan on here speaking against Senator Weld, who was a proponent of that. And that got held up in the Education Committee, so it didn't run here on the House floor. So as things do, and I give them credit for doing what they try to do to get their calls in, but they added that bill into another bill that we had passed out of here, amended it to it, and sent it back over here. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute.
So we just then they just took action on it a little while ago, basally refused to concur on the Senate making those changes.
Absolutely. So, it's like a block shot in sports. It's like, no, not so fast.
So what other bills? Any other bills you think we're going to hold hostage today or things happening?
And you and I were communicating earlier. One word I got, and, of course, rumors are flying all over the place here today, is that the Senate was going to hold up our bills, House bills, waiting to see if we were going to run SB 2, which is the unemployment
that SB2, I mean, it just affects so many people. And right now during COVID, I mean, why would we force to run that bill when people are struggling and people are in need? And that was the bill that changed the amount of unemployment weeks and benefits.
I think the proponents are saying, hey, now is the time to do that when unemployment's this low and the economy, and we've got the surpluses and things in place and so forth to take care of it. But it has met bipartisan stiff resistance.
I think there's bipartisan resistance against it over here. I'm not even sure the bill would pass.
Right, and that's exactly right. And well, if they thought it would, I think it would have run. And so they know that it's very questionable. So it hasn't run, and so. But I think maybe why would they want to push it? Speaking of the Senate, but maybe they want to put people on record. I don't know. So a lot of gamesmanship up here, and you expect this, as the last hours.
The last hours here, we go up until midnight. You're going to see there's still a lot of resolutions out there. Senate concurrent resolutions, House concurrent resolutions. There are pieces of legislation that are coming up for third reading. I know we have the broadband bill, the connectivity bill. Delegate Linville's worked on that. That was Senate Bill 231. We haven't even got to that yet.
That's correct, and I say, one of the reasons we had to jump out here on the fly and see to this, and we couldn't do our show as we'd originally planned is, I messaged you and I said, hey, look, I don't see them taking any kind of significant break through this unless it's just 30 minutes to eat at some point because there's such a demand. I don't even know even then if we'll get that because there's such a demand to get these bills that a lot of bills are going to die tonight.
Well, you see the difference. You see the difference here behind us. It's a lot more quiet this today on day 60 as we saw during the session.
Pretty much all the lobbying's done. Now it's just a matter of they're going to get the votes on the floor. Will the bill even get to the floor? And that's why I say right now the worst enemy for anybody is the clock.
Yeah. And, I think that we'll see what happens today. Here we are coming back to you. This is day 60 under the Capitol Dome with our new show Outside the Echo Chamber, and this is episode 8. We've tried to bring you issues and hot topics and have both sides of those issues on the show. We plan to continue running this show after today, but it won't be here under the Capitol Dome. So we look forward to having a few guests here. We're going to take a quick break and come right back with you, Delegate Sean Hornbuckle.
A new day begins, and what happens today must be covered, reported, and passed on to everyone in the region we serve. We are journalists, staff writers, editors, storytellers. Who are we? We are HD Media, trustworthy and always here for the times we live in.
What started as the Parmar Oil Company in 1967 has grown into 116 convenience stores in 4 states. Parmar convenience stores offer monthly product specials and grab-and-go items. Located just down the street from where you live, Parmar stores are all about being your above-par convenience store. If you don't have a Parmar store near you now, you will soon. Parmar Convenience Stores, neighbors serving your community and making life a little bit easier every day.
Here in West Virginia, we're known as hard workers, friendly faces, and people with a caring spirit. At Summit Community Bank, those qualities are at the core of all that we do. We're a group of experienced professional bankers that you've known for many years. We work hard to earn your business and will work even harder to help you succeed. We customize banking solutions that work for you. We're Summit Community Bank. Service beyond expectations.
Proudly advocating for workers and their families, the West Virginia Afl-Cio is a group of 600 labor organizations representing 70,000 active and 70,000 retired union members. We represent first responders, healthcare workers, educators, coal miners, construction workers, plant workers, truck drivers, grocery store clerks, and every job in between. We believe every worker has the right to fair wages, good benefits, and a safe workplace. That's what the West Virginia Afl-Cio fights for every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to Outside the Echo Chamber. Here we are live on day 60 under the Capitol Dome. We have a lot of going on. We don't know how long this day is going to end, but we do know it doesn't conclude till midnight tonight. So a lot of jockeying going back and forth. Certain pieces of legislation on the Senate want, certain pieces of legislation the House wants. We're going to see what happens. But here we are, final day 60, and I'm excited to have with a colleague of mine, Delegate Sean Hornbuckle from Cabell County, joining us on the set today. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Glad to be here.
Day 60.
Yes, sir.
But who's counting down the time, minutes, days, huh?
It's the finish line.
It's the finish line. We're almost there.
Yes, sir.
What happens, to you? How many years is this up here for you?
Oh, gosh. So I was elected in 2014. So this is what, year 8? Yep.
Year 8.
Yep.
And you were this year, you were the first minority pro temp of the Democratic Party.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that honor. It's been fun in that role, just assisting you and Minority Whip Sean Fluharty, and just trying to really bring the caucus together and push for good policy in our state.
22 members strong, right?
Strong.
Hey, we have we dive right into the topics here yesterday. And yesterday, one of the bills that kind of had 9 lives, it was a bill I know was near and dear to your heart, the critical race theory bill.
Yes.
We talked about this thing, it seems like, a few weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
And we thought they had parked it and Judiciary decided not to take it up and maybe look into it at a future time. But then it got resurrected.
Yes.
Senate Bill 498.
Mm-hmm.
You had one of the most passionate speeches I've ever heard on the House floor yesterday.
I appreciate that.
I mean, it was very moving. I've had people text me and call me and say, that's Sean Hornbuckle. I'll go to battle with you any day. But tell me about it. Tell me, why was that so near to you? And what message did that bill not only send?
Yeah.
And why? Why was that?
Well, there were several different reasons. One, it had 9 lives because it was all about campaigning. All right. All the things that they've talked about as far as CRT have been unfounded, and they're just false narratives to get people elected. One of the biggest fears was, driving teachers out of our classroom, first and foremost. I mean, that's just horrendous to even try to do that. Again, putting our students' AP courses in peril was another shortcoming of the piece of legislation. But then, the overarching theme, when we're going to say that a bill is the Anti-Racism Act, and it had 0 elements of promoting anti-racism. It was just, intellectually dishonest, if you
Title
will.
had nothing to do.
Nothing to do with it. And, in my speech, I wanted to highlight those shortcomings, but I also wanted to use it as a tool to galvanize all of us, not Democrats, not Republicans, but the whole body. This whole building, whether it's here in the House, now the Senate, the governor's office, we need to be taking measures to actually, again, promote anti-racism. Had several bills, not just myself, but some of the bills that I've highlighted. One was a business bill. All right, I've been trying to cut taxes, and those taxes were associated with business credits to employers who hire and promote women and minorities into lead executive roles. You would think that would just be common sense because we give taxes, away for everything.
How much time did we spend talking about that this session?
Zero. Again, there was, from our state Department of Education, we have data, research, and facts on how children of color have disproportionate expulsion and suspension rates and referrals. And so why are we not going to take the effort, the time to address those? And, again, we talk about these things, and we're going to do every other issue and topic in this dome except for those. And so I wanted to wrap up my speech with talking about how, a lot of folks are the same. And, I've talked what's near and dear to my heart. As I said in my speech, while I love everybody, I have a sort of a nook in my heart for poor white folks and black folks, because while their plights are uniquely different, all right, they are not this exact same. But there's a lot of similarities in that. And, you've seen time and time again in our country, it feels like there's just different issues that try to wedge those two groups who might be the most two common folks on the planet because of their plights. And I think if we are working together collaboratively to make sure that both of those entities are able to rise up, then it just helps the whole state to move forward. And so that's something I'm passionate about. And I wanted to reflect on some of my Republican colleagues who I respect a lot to say, hey, you are in charge. You all are in charge right now, and I respect you. But with that respect, you got a bit of responsibility. And these are issues that we're not talking about. We don't discuss them, and they need to be had. And
these
we
are
need
tough
to
conversations to have.
They are. They are. But that's, I'll never forget.
You held up some pictures.
Yes.
And talk about that for a moment. You held up.
So I, a part of this bill, all right, was talking about people being uncomfortable. All right, that was some of the narrative. And so, I wanted to ask about, I had pictures of lynchings, pictures of the Holocaust. Emmett Till, 14-year-old boy by way of Chicago, went to Mississippi and was murdered, brutally murdered, just off a false narrative on a Caucasian lady. And his mother chose to have an open casket, funeral, to let everyone know that it is uncomfortable. But because of that, we need to be doing the right things to prevent these types of things. Also had, a picture of veterans, black veterans that have fought for this country in a time where they were segregated, disrespected, no voting rights, and to come home in our great country and just, that disrespect, but also not being able to enjoy the GI Bill, as I talked about. The GI Bill was a piece of work by government and worked along with lenders and people of the like to exclude them from educational opportunities, to exclude them from wealth building opportunities with the purchases of homes. And again, that just sort of exploded the wealth gap. And so these are things that, while they're uncomfortable, they're factual. And if they're taught, we can move forward and then make sure, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Has there been any progress in these teachings or anything like this? Or is it you think this takes us the wrong direction?
I think, this bill takes us the wrong direction. Yeah. And it's a signal that we don't value folks. All right. It's a signal that we also don't respect our teachers. All right. There's a lot of things going on with that. And in parts of our country, we have made great strides. But West Virginia, it's, unfortunately, while I love my state, it's one of the areas that we lack as far as making progress on this issue. Genuine progress, and so it's something that we just all need to work together on and make sure we can push our state forward.
Other states, predominantly more the red states,
yes,
like Oklahoma, they passed something similar to this last year,
yeah,
and they had current issue topic conversations like around the George Floyd,
yes, mm-hmm,
around crisis on the Mexican border,
yes,
families being separated.
Absolutely.
You had documentation of a teacher from Oklahoma City cancel those conversations,
yes,
because they were afraid of being sued,
mm-hmm,
because of pieces of legislation like this that prevents what you can and can't say in the classroom. So the point I think that you were trying to make, yes, yesterday was like, do we want to talk about it? Do we want to talk about what's actually happening, or are you just trying to ignore it?
It's it's sad, but it's ignoring it. And the reason we're ignoring those things and we're trying to cease those conversations is because of good folks like you that are allies. And I would also tell you that Democrats just don't monopolize good people. There are some daggone good Republicans. And there's been a lot of people, especially back home in Huntington, Republicans, Democrats, people from all walks of life, that when some of those things started happening, let's say this, when they started to get captured, mm-hmm, all right, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, again, galvanized good people, all walks of life, different parties, wanted to come together and be allies and start to address some of these shortcomings in social justice, economic inequity, all right? And so bills like this are driving that wedge yet again, trying to break up good people from trying to solve problems.
When there's so many people, we spent probably 7 days, so many hours, yeah, on this piece of legislation, and a lot of people question, including yourself and myself,
yes,
like, why do we spend so much time, yeah, on issues that aren't going to bring anybody here?
No.
Might drive people away.
Yes.
What's it do to help people? How does it hurt people?
Mm-hmm.
So many questions were asked this type of legislation, when instead you had brought up some things that we could be focusing our time on.
Absolutely.
Mention some of those things that you hope to come out of this, because we had a bill that came up.
Mm-hmm.
We had a bill talking about video surveillance,
yes,
in classrooms.
Yes.
Okay? So that bill came up, and it passed.
Mm-hmm.
We had a family up here.
Absolutely.
Advocating for that bill. I think this was their first session advocating for the bill, correct?
Absolutely.
And it got passed in both Senates,
yes,
unanimously.
Sir. It did.
How many years have you been advocating for something, then have you seen that type of attention for certain issues?
It's been years.
Years?
It hasn't been just myself. Again, been a lot of good folks. But again, that's what I was referencing earlier in our conversation. State Department of Education has numbers and statistics. This is a huge shortcoming on how they are administering punishments and expulsions for kids of color versus their white counterparts. And we just are unwilling, for whatever reason, to address that. And I wanted to, point out yesterday that Senate Bill 261, which is a great bill, it should have been a 100-0 vote. It should have flew through both chambers.
That was the video surveillance in special needs classrooms.
It was great. But why are we not affording that same due diligence and effort and pride and emotion to this issue, which has to do with our kids? It just makes you wonder, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah. Well, Sean, I know we got to get back in there. We got to get back to work. And
yes, sir.
I really appreciate you having me. Any other piece of legislation you have your eye on today, day 60, that you hope to see gets across the finish line, or maybe doesn't get across the finish line?
We'll just wait and see. But I would like to just express my gratitude towards you. And I think you might be the best minority leader in the country.
Oh, well.
So I appreciate you, and we're going to rock this thing out.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and I meant that about your passionate speech yesterday.
Yes.
Regardless of what side of the issue on, that was one of the most passionate speeches I've heard on that House floor. So thank you for all that you did on that issue, but some of your suggestions moving forward, and hope we can see some serious change happen.
Appreciate that.
There you had it. We had Delegate Sean Hornbuckle from Cabell County up here, fighting the good fight and continuing here on day 60 outside the echo chamber under the Capitol Dome. We'll be right back.
The relationship between a lawyer and a client is based on trust. You have to make certain that the lawyer you hire has your best interests at heart. We typically meet our clients at the worst times of their lives, and it's our job to help them. Over the years, we've been entrusted with some of the biggest cases in West Virginia. That's because we have a track record of success and getting exceptional results. We built a reputation as one of the go-to law firms throughout the state of West Virginia.
Joining me, high-profile lawyer Ben Salango. Ben, it's a real honor to have you on.
In fact, many of our cases come from other lawyers. Lawyers who've worked with us, lawyers who've worked against us, and even those who've merely heard of our results. We're proud of the reputation we've earned in the community for providing exceptional, aggressive legal representation. When you hire my law firm, you don't get excuses, you get results.
People keep asking me how Todd Judy Ford has the best selection of vehicles at a time of national shortage.
The secret is our 130% of Kelley Blue Book for your trade-in.
Everyone wants to trade the car with us and get more money.
And now we're making it even better.
We will beat any other dealer's trade offer by $1,000 guaranteed.
If we can't beat it, we'll just give you the cash.
So bring in that car, upgrade your vehicle, and get top dollar for your trade-in now.
Just go to ToddJudyFord.com and see for yourself.
We know who we are, where we've been, where we're going. Like hospitals all over America, we are changing, redefining, restructuring ourselves to be the best community health system in the region we serve. We are 2 hospitals with more than 30 locations, 450 providers, and 1 mission: to heal. As one, we are Thomas Health, caring for our communities today and tomorrow.
Welcome back to Under the Capitol Dome here on Outside the Echo Chamber, streamed live on the West Virginia Gazette Mail.com website and HeraldDispatch.com website, as well coming to you on Facebook Live on all our platforms. You know, this show right here, we dive deep into the issues that affect all West Virginians. And last year, there was a piece of legislation, there was a group that was formed, a food insecurity work group that Speaker Hanshaw appointed, bipartisan work group to help with the food insecurity. And it's my pleasure to come to the show today and have on the show today is Delegate Chad Lovejoy from Cabell County. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Doug.
Day 60, final countdown is on. I know there's been a lot. We're not going to waste a lot of time. We got to get back in there and get to work. But there's a couple bills near and dear to your heart. Tell me real quick about this food insecurity work group that you are very instrumental in making happen.
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, after the last session, the Speaker appointed a bipartisan food insecurity work group and tasked us with taking a deep dive into the policy in West Virginia on food insecurity and to try to come up with some legislation. And I'm happy to say we have. And one passed a couple hours ago, and we got one on third reading in the Senate right now.
So right now, I know this bill that you're watching right now, what's the bill number? Senate bill?
So Senate Bill 424.
424, the farm bill.
Yep, that passed a couple hours ago, and that's a big one because it raises the tax credit for farmers that donate edible agricultural products, which can be, food and produce, meat, any of those things, raises the tax credit. It's going to help our farmers. It's going to help our food banks. And so I think it's just a win-win-win.
So you serve not only on this, and I know you're near and dear to your heart with food insecurity. You help out with the food bank down there in Huntington, do a phenomenal job on that. Talk to me about serving now as the minority chair on the Judiciary Committee. All right. This is, your role on that committee. I know you have 6 members, and sometimes it's an uphill battle, but you fight the good fight up there. Talk to me about what it was like serving on the Judiciary Committee this year.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm biased, but I think that the Judiciary is the best committee in the House, and I say that because the number of bills that come through it, the breadth of topics that come through it, and we try to put in good work, hard work, and put out good products. So even in an instance being in the minority, it's important to me that what comes out of there is, even if I don't agree with it, that it's as good as it can be in terms of product. And so a lot of long nights, a lot of bills, but it's been a real pleasure to serve on that.
And there's been a couple bills I know you were proud to see make it through the committee, and there's probably some bills that you were glad to see didn't make it through the committee process. When we just had Delegate Sean Hornbuckle on here talking about one bill that we thought the Judiciary Committee, saw the end of it, then it kind of got resurfaced. That was the CRT bill. So you never know until day 60 if the issue or the bill is actually another bill you watched up there was Senate Bill 7, medical monitoring. Where's that bill at in the process right now?
So that bill's on the House calendar, which means it's inactive. It's not moving, and it's my hope that when we hit midnight tonight, it'll still be there.
Okay. Good. And then any other bills that you were proud of this session that you saw they're going to make it to the floor, you're hoping that get passed here on the final day?
I'll be honest, most of the stuff that on our side that I was kind of looking forward to getting has been done. And there's an emergency school feeding act down in the Senate. That's on third reading, so that one I'm hoping gets through. That's been a bill we put in for the 4 years now. But we're approaching the finish line, and so far several of the priorities that we've had have come to fruition.
Talk to me real quick here, and we'll let you get back in there on day 60. Some of the, for lack of better words, some of the gamesmanship that goes on, Senate bills and House bills maybe being, hijacked by certain issues that aren't relevant, or maybe they are, but they're trying to find a vehicle or avenue to get some bills that maybe died earlier in their session. So you're exactly right. On day 60 here, we see those games played. How many years now you've been up here?
So this is my third session.
And have you've kind of seen that through the years, day 60?
Yeah, and you hear some of the old timers tell you when you get here things like fat possums run at night, right? And meaning that as we head towards that midnight, you got to watch every bill, because it could be a bill that was completely innocuous, but now all of a sudden stuffed inside of it are 2 or 3 bills that didn't make it. So you have to be very careful in these last few hours.
Well, there's one bill that everyone's on top of everyone's mind is that Senate Bill 2.
Yeah.
I think that was Senator Blair's bill, which would affect so many West Virginians when they're reducing the unemployment benefits that they would receive in time of need. And I think the House position has been, well, we didn't take it up yesterday, and is to just see that bill die in the wee hours of the night. However, here we are on day 60, and we're continuing to talk about it over on the Senate side.
Yeah.
So, not with lack of better words, would be, hey, we want you to run this. In return, we will run this. Yeah. And so it literally does go down until 11:59, until the clock strikes midnight.
Very true. And I mean, that's part of the blessing and the curse of a bicameral legislature. You got 2 houses. And so if something is a priority to one house, like the Senate President's, priority piece, Senate Bill 2, and then the House over here doesn't run it, well, then sometimes the Senate says, well, that's fine. We won't run this, this, and this. So it really, you got to go all the way till the whistle blows.
And lastly, we just passed Senate Bill 250, the budget bill. Had a lot of good stuff in there and things. Were you comfortable with the budget bill, or how that played out, and how will that affect the people back home in Cabell County and the people you represent in your district?
I think the speaker made a great point that you're never going to be 100% happy with the budget bill. You can't, unless I wrote it myself. I'm not going to like everything in it. But I think overall it strikes a balance. It's going to help, Marshall University. It's going to help our state police. It's going to help our CPS workers. I mean, there's enough in there that for me, I thought the good outweighs the bad, and I'm hopeful that the people back home feel the same.
Well, there you have it right now. I mean, that's one of probably the most monumental pieces of legislation we pass every year, because we're constitutionally bound to pass that budget, and that sets forth what happens over the course of the year and how we. Well, thanks again to Delegate Chad Lovejoy from Cabell County for being here and your work as Minority Chair of the Judiciary Committee. I know you put in a lot of late hours up there. That Judiciary Committee, thank God I'm not on it. I think I served 1 year on it, but I know one night they were here till 11 p.m. working, and then they had to get up the next day and go in about 8:30. So for that is definitely the workhorse committee. Thank you to Chad Lovejoy for being here today. We're going to take a quick break on Outside the Echo Chamber.
A new day begins, and what happens today must be covered, reported, and passed on to everyone in the region we serve. We are journalists, staff writers, editors, storytellers. Who are we? We are HD Media, trustworthy and always here for the times we live in.
And Marshall wins another one.
I could take any of these guys one-on-one. Oh, really?
Oh, no.
For a limited time, ask about no payments till summer.
Friends and family pricing for everyone, even trash talkers like Wes.
Here in West Virginia, we're known as hard workers, friendly faces, and people with a caring spirit. At Summit Community Bank, those qualities are at the core of all that we do. We're a group of experienced professional bankers that you've known for many years. We work hard to earn your business and will work even harder to help you succeed. We customize banking solutions that work for you. We're Summit Community Bank. Service beyond expectations.
What started as the Parmar Oil Company in 1967 has grown into 116 convenience stores in 4 states. Parmar convenience stores offer monthly product specials and grab-and-go items. Located just down the street from where you live, Parmar stores are all about being your above-par convenience store. If you don't have a Parmar store near you now, you will soon. Parmar convenience stores, neighbors serving your community and making life a little bit easier every day.
Proudly advocating for workers and their families, the West Virginia Afl-Cio is a group of 600 labor organizations representing 70,000 active and 70,000 retired union members. We represent first responders, healthcare workers, educators, coal miners, construction workers, plant workers, truck drivers, grocery store clerks, and every job in between. We believe every worker has the right to fair wages, good benefits, and a safe workplace. That's what the West Virginia Afl-Cio fights for every day.
Looking for a friendly bank that you can turn to in your community? Bank where the decisions on your needs are made locally. With online banking and 7 locations. Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter.
Welcome back to Outside the Echo Chamber. Here we are under the Capitol Dome, like I said, day 60. It's a little quiet back here. We're used to seeing a lot of activity, but that's because all the bills that are out here right now, and 4 of us, we go back and forth. It's my pleasure to have on set with me is a Republican delegate, Evan Worrell from Cabell County.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, Evan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Day 60.
Crazy day. Right? Busy day. Long day.
Counting down the hours and minutes?
Yes, yep. Trying to get things through.
Talk to me about session real quick. How do you feel about session, some of the things you were working on, so you were passionate about? Do you feel good about this session?
I do now. Yeah, I think most of the point this session was really for what bills I didn't think were good ideas and things we needed to kind of defeat and keep from running. I think that was the most important thing for this session as opposed to trying to advance legislation. So.
Well, it's never over until midnight.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Senate Bill 2 was out there, and then I think it wasn't out there, and now it's maybe possibly back out there. Where does that one stand? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't. I keep hearing back and forth as well, but that's a bad bill. It's a real bad bill for our workers and blue-collar workers in West Virginia, and I don't think it fixes anything. So don't look forward to it at all, and we've been working hard. I know many of us have to keep that bill off the agenda so that we don't have a vote on it.
You formed, tell everybody real quick, formed, I should have started with that, the Republican Labor Caucus.
Yeah. Yeah, we a group of us got together, and it's pretty. I think a labor caucus has always existed if you look at the votes that have happened. But we wanted to make something formal and let those members of those trade unions and organizations out there know they have a Republican support as well.
You started that last session, is that correct?
Yeah, last November actually. Yeah, so this is our first session under that with our labor caucus, and I think it's been very well and received as far as inside of our side. people have different opinions.
Well, that was interesting because I know you started last year, and as members come and go and the issues come and go, and some line up on issues that we can all agree on, and they may not. But it's the bottom line is helping West Virginia workers.
That's exactly right, and that's what we care about. And we want to help expand trade and apprenticeship programs throughout the state. Really kind of advance and grow our blue-collar workers and our tradesmen in this state. I'm really worried, and a lot of us are really fearful that we're going to see a lot of those retire over the next 5 to 10 years, and we need to fill those spots.
We had a lot of debate these last couple of days. We were here till 10:30 last night, but today there was a lot of debate on the budget bill.
Yeah.
Senate Bill 250 on both sides of the aisle.
Correct.
And then at the end of the day, I believe it was a 90-9 vote. There's nothing more than having a 2.5-hour debate, and then it's an overwhelming, almost unanimous vote, 90.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, and you heard it from Delegate Boggs as well, right? I mean, the process is part of the problem, right? So we've got to fix the process. I think that's where a lot of the contention was. There were a lot of good things in this bill, and a lot of people wanted to support the things that were in the actual bill, but I think it's the process and in receiving some adjustments from the governor late last night, I think that people were frustrated with.
Talk about being late last night. I mean, you had your kids here with you last night.
Yeah.
And because it seemed like it was the session that was never going to end, but it was neat to have your wife and your kids up there in the balcony looking down. Do they understand what Dad does up here, or what's it like having them come back to the Capitol?
Yeah, so she does explain that to them as much as possible. My wife does, and so I know that's a lot on her. So I only ask her to do it one time a session, but I'm a proud father of 6 children, and I'm just
one on the way.
Yeah, that's right, and one on the way, 7 to be soon. But I'm very proud to introduce them and have them and. So I always ask her to bring them up one time and get to have them on the floor. And I think, the plan is that 20, 30 years down the road, we'll be able to look back on those memories that they were here with us. So.
That's always neat, getting the good pictures and seeing everybody how they behave. I've got 3 as well, and they're 3 under the age of 5, and I try to give them here, and I just keep them intact for 5 minutes just so I can introduce them is sometimes a challenge. But and talk about, and I'll let you get back to the business here, but being a delegate now for how many years?
4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. And you have such a beautiful family. And I think you said yesterday or a couple of days ago, the reason you do it is for a better future for your family.
That's right. And I think it matters in our community. My family and other families in the community, we're all the same. We're all similar, I should say. So, I have a personal interest, obviously, in trying to advance things for my family as well. And I think that correlates to the community that I live in as well. So,
Well, there you have it. We're almost there. We get back to our family tomorrow, day 60. Under the Capitol Dome here. It is a little more quiet today than normal, It
is. But at least people are allowed in the building. Remember, last year they weren't. So
that's
I'm at least happy about that. But we'll
getting
go
back to
strong
normal,
the
non-COVID restrictions. So
correct.
Always good. Well, Evan, thanks again for all you do for the state of West Virginia and coming on the show and talking a little bit with us.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.
All right. You bet. Thank you. There you heard from Delegate Evan Rowell. He's a Republican member from Cabell County. Like you heard it right there, he started the Labor Caucus last year. What was interesting, a Republican Labor Caucus, and there was a lot of issues that affect West Virginians, and it was important for him to do that and help stand up for the issues that most affect them. So we'll be right back after a quick message on Outside the Echo Chamber.
A new day begins, and what happens today must be covered, reported, and passed on to everyone in the region we serve. We are journalists, staff writers, editors, storytellers. Who are we? We are HD Media, trustworthy and always here for the times we live in.
The relationship between a lawyer and a client is based on trust. You have to make certain that the lawyer you hire has your best interest at heart. We typically meet our clients at the worst times of their lives, and it's our job to help them. Over the years, we've been entrusted with some of the biggest cases in West Virginia. That's because we have a track record of success and getting exceptional results. We built a reputation as one of the go-to law firms throughout the state of West Virginia.
Joining me, high-profile lawyer Ben Salango. Ben, it's a real honor to have you on.
In fact, many of our cases come from other lawyers. Lawyers who've worked with us, lawyers who've worked against us, and even those who've merely heard of our results. We're proud of the reputation we've earned in the community for providing exceptional, aggressive legal representation. When you hire my law firm, you don't get excuses, you get results.
People keep asking me how Todd Judy Ford has the best selection of vehicles at a time of national shortage.
The secret is our 130% of Kelley Blue Book for your trade-in.
Everyone wants to trade the car with us and get more money.
And now we're making it even better.
We will beat any other dealer's trade offer by $1,000 guaranteed.
If we can't beat it, we'll just give you the cash.
So bring in that car, upgrade your vehicle, and get top dollar for your trade-in now.
Just go to ToddJudyFord.com and see for yourself.
Welcome back to Outside the Echo Chamber. Here we are wrapping up on day 60, where we come to you with all the hot issues that are going on. We're going to get right to it. It's our final segment. It's a pleasure to have President of the Afl-Cio, Josh Short, here with me today. Josh, it's never over till it's over, right?
We have a few hours to go. We're still concerned about some things that are alive right now, but
talk about which bill you're concerned about.
Well,
what's going on?
Let me start by saying thanks in part to your leadership in the minority caucus over here in the House. We've been able to, at least up to this point, successfully keep at least a couple bad bills at bay, one of which is Senate Bill 2, this unemployment bill that seems to have garnered a priority from the Senate leadership. I'm not really sure why. You know, our unemployment insurance trust fund is as healthy as it ever has been. In fact, employers just got a notification last month that there would be a 25% reduction in premiums. Unemployment rates are at historic lows, yet they want to come in here and remove half of the potential unemployment benefits for workers that lose their job through no fault of their own. It's really a slap in the face to working families. By the way, it doesn't get to the real problem of getting more people into the workforce. I think a couple of weeks ago, there were 9,000 or 10,000, laid off workers who filed for unemployment. Even if all those workers were in the workforce, you're not moving the needle. I mean, if we want to talk about getting workers in the workforce, let's have that discussion. Let's not try to create some diversion that something is going on with our unemployment insurance compensation system, because that's not where the problem is.
So here we are, Saturday afternoon, and we thought that Senate Bill 2 was not going to run, and there's always gamesmanship that's played on the last day, and unfortunately, you have issues that are near and dear to Senate, you have issues that are near and dear to the legislators in the House, and they hold certain things hostage until you run one or the other.
There are rumors going around right now, Delegate, that Senator Blair and his team want to derail everything else that might be in play, and in part because the votes don't appear to be there on Senate Bill 2 in the House.
Yeah, I mean, if it actually ran, he wants it to run in the House, and if it actually ran, I don't know if it would even pass.
I don't think it would pass, but it's it's government. It's pretty ugly at times, but we see this mean-spiritedness, especially from Senate leadership, and I don't know what's driving it. We've witnessed it now for 7 or 8 years. It's a very specific attack on working families, in particular organized labor, and all we're advocating for are, fair wages, good benefits, and a safe workplace. Yet, there seems to be this continued attack on working families. We're going to get out of this session today, regardless of what passes, and then we're going to communicate with our membership and the public at large and let them know who, the good folks are and who the bad folks are here at the Capitol, because we need to make real change in May and November this year.
Well, and, and this bill, Senate Bill 2, does affect working families, but it affects non-labor.
Absolutely.
I mean, it affects every West Virginian who's unemployed.
Yeah, I would say of those that are getting unemployment right now, the overwhelming majority of them are not union members. Mm-hmm. So it's a good point.
Well, what about, is there any piece of legislation that you were working on or did pass or did make it through the finish line or no?
Honestly, I mean, it's going to be difficult for us to reflect back and find something really positive that'll help working families overall coming out of this session. It's been in large part defense on our part, and we've seen that, as I've mentioned, the last few years. But like I said, we've got to get engaged and involved in this election, make sure folks know and understand where these candidates stand on issues important to working families, and get more folks up here that want to do the right thing and help working families instead of hurt.
And talk about, I know you represent education,
yeah,
a lot of educators as well too. Talk about, we've seen a lot of pieces of legislation on education, but what's it do for public education?
These measures that they're adopting here are going to have a crippling effect on public education for years, possibly decades, even generations to come. And look, without public education, I mean, that is the one opportunity that we all get, regardless of where you're born, where you live, what kind of economic situation you come into this world. Public education is that one equal opportunity that puts everybody, in theory, on a level playing field. They're destroying it. Piece by piece, brick by brick, they're removing from the infrastructure that allows us that one shot at the American dream. And we're a very rural state. They talk about options and choice. Well, what options and choice are you going to have other than a solid public education system in West Virginia? It's not going to exist. And I'm really worried about this path that they're leading us down on public education. Once again, we've got to educate folks and make sure they understand where these candidates are on these issues.
Well, you've seen, this was an interesting session. There's been a lot of pieces of legislation that kind of did away with local control, and that would affect local school boards as well too. That would not, and municipalities, and then also there's been a lot of focus on tax and doing away with different types of items that would trickle down effect that would help public education. Would hurt public education by taking funds away. So I think, however, what do you say? I mean, we continue to celebrate up here, it seems like, how well the state is doing. And from a budget surplus standpoint.
Well, there are all kinds of other factors going in. I mean, as well as I do, there's a ton of federal money flowing into West Virginia still as a result of the pandemic. And that hasn't been, clearly articulated from the other side, in my opinion, as to, our standing in terms of the budget. The other thing that we have is Governor Jim Justice lowballing estimates, which really, ties the hands of the legislature. And then when returns or revenues come back the way they are expected, then it makes everything look a lot better than it really is. He should just give an honest and fair assessment of where revenue expectations should be. But speaking of money going into education, there's a pretty big ballot initiative in November related to taxes for local government, local school boards. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that coming up. Look, we've got a lot of work to do here. I still believe in West Virginia. I think we're the greatest state in the union, but it's getting a little more difficult to manage the legislative process and advocate for workers when there seems to be a very clear priority to want to hurt them. And we're the backbone of the middle class, the backbone of our economy. You would think you'd want to lift up workers instead of compress and step on them like we've seen for years. It's just sad.
I know you represent a lot of people, and I think we're all standing by the way. We've done a lot to help attract business and entities here. I'm hoping that they employ West Virginians and work, union or non. I just hope they employ West Virginians and we can help grow our economy that way.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need opportunities here.
Keeping opportunities. Okay, well, thanks, Josh, for all you're doing and up here fighting the good fight as well. And I know day 60, you can go home and relax tomorrow, but not till after midnight. So we'll see what happens. But thanks again for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, there you heard it right now from Josh Shore, president of Afl-Cio, on how actual piece of legislation will affect a lot of people, a lot of West Virginians. So here it is, as we wrap up, bringing you live coverage under the Capitol Dome. I was proud to help co-host this show and be a part of it as we kick this off this year on the WestVirginiaGazetteMail.com. You can go back and catch the shows archived. All our shows will be archived, as well as the HeraldDispatch.com and on some of our Facebook pages. We hope to continue bringing you all the issues and hot topics on Outside the Echo Chamber, and we plan to next Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. and Thursday, coming to you live from our studio downtown at the Charleston Gazette-Mail building. So if you have anything you'd like for us to discuss, any hot topics, you can email us, OutsideTheEchoChamber.com. It's been a pleasure being your host today under the Capitol Dome on day 60 on Outside the Echo Chamber. We'll see you next time.